Hello everybody, welcome to a digital marketing for bloggers.com tutorial. In this video I'm going to show you how you can set up and use email sequences in ConvertKit. Now your first step is clearly to log into your ConvertKit account at app.convertkit.com. If you are not yet signed up with ConvertKit, I will provide a link below this video so you can do just that. As you can see on this one page, after you first sign up, you will be sent to the subscribers page where you get a little graph and some stats about how you are doing from an email marketing perspective. But what we want is up here at the top, you're going to click on the sequences link. And on the next page, you will see a list of your sequences. Now, if you have not yet set one up, of course, this page will be blank for you. What you will see, however, is the new sequence button here on the top right. And that's what we're going to select to create our sequence. And we're going to give our sequence a name, and this will just be test sequence for me, and create sequence. Now this page is really where the magic happens. As you can see, we have lots of elements on this page, but I found that of all the email marketing services out there, ConvertKit does the best job of making a usable user interface. Now first, I'll direct your attention to the left. Here's where all of the emails within the sequence will be displayed. Right now we only have one, but if you click on this Add Email button, more emails get added on the fly just like this. And these emails will be sent one after the other on a timed interval based on what you have selected. So right now, by default, it's all 1 day. And note that the time interval is based on the previous email, not based on when the user started the sequence. And that's a very important step to keep in mind. This is relative to the previous email. So 1 day after email 2, 1 day after email 3, so on and so forth. Click up here on the first email. What I usually like to do is right after a subscriber subscribes to a sequence, or after I subscribe them to a sequence, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, I like to send the first email immediately. So on the right hand side we see a couple options here like status, when to send, and filtering and delete. What we're going to do is under when to send, we're going to click the little pencil, and instead of sending 1 day, I'm going to send 0 days after the subscription, and ConvertKit converts that to immediately. So right after an email subscriber gets added to the sequence, they're getting this first email. And then email 2 will be sent 1 day after this one. As you notice, you can change the number of days to anything you want: 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 10 days, 100 days, whatever. It's all fine. And you could also change days to hours. So if you'd rather send an email 5 hours after the first email, you are certainly welcome to do that just by changing this little drop down here. And also notice below that you have days of the week specifications here. So for example, if you never want an email in your sequence to be sent out over the weekend, simply unselect Saturday and Sunday. And even if this email were to have been sent on the weekend, ConvertKit will hold that email and resume your sequence on the next Monday, provided that Monday is one of the days that you want to send your email on. So this is a very, very powerful and useful way to control when your emails are being sent during the week. I tend to leave all 7 days selected, but of course this is up to you. And you are ultimately responsible for choosing what works best for you. But I always leave them selected so they get emails over the weekend. Now down here is where you will actually write the content of each email. Now I'm not going to do that in this tutorial because it's going to be so different for each one of us. But this is a very common user interface for writing text and inserting images and bolding text, italicizing text, and so on and so forth. You could also personalize, which I highly, highly recommend personalizing your emails here with the subscriber's name and things like that. So if they have a first name in your ConvertKit account, which they may not, but if they do, ConvertKit will say hello, subscriber name, else just hello. And of course, you can change the hello text to whatever you are looking for. But personalization is highly recommended. And I'll bring your attention back up to the top, status. Right now, every time you create a new email within your sequence, the status will be draft, which means ConvertKit will not send that particular email during the sequence. So every email that you want to actually work needs to be published. So I'll just go to each email and select publish, going down the list, and then ConvertKit will send only the published ones to the users after they subscribe. Now, another thing I want to direct your attention to is this filter button here on the top of the screen. If you select filter, this allows you to systematically and intentionally exclude some people from getting individual emails based on some kind of criteria. So for example, if they're subscribed to a tag, then you may not want them to get one of your emails. So this will be, of course, dependent on you and your situation, but this makes it even more powerful to exclude some email subscribers from some of your emails based on what they've already done within your system. So for example, if you're plugging a few of your products and they've already bought one of your products, you probably don't need to plug that same product to them. So you might want to exclude that email to just those subscribers that have already bought the product that you're advertising. That's just one example. There's many examples of when you may want to exclude a user from an email. And of course, this delete button up here will remove just that email from the sequence. As you see at the top right, there's content settings and reports. Let's go ahead and save this first so I don't lose my work, and then we'll click over onto settings. And settings gives you a higher level view of the settings with your particular sequence. Here there's different email addresses that you can send from. If you scroll down, send emails on the days of the week. Of course, this controls the entire sequence, not individual emails within the sequence. You can select an email template, which you can set up within your account. And you can exclude subscribers from the entire sequence, not just emails. Again, the entire sequence on this page here. And of course, you can delete your sequence here if you just no longer want it at all. Back up to the top, reports will show you how your sequence did, things like open rate and click rate and sends and unsubscribes for each and every email in your sequence. And this is incredibly powerful to figure out if you have one email that's just poorly designed and people are unsubscribing because of that one email. You'll be able to see that really easily in the reports section of your sequence here on the right. And of course, this hasn't been sent because this is just a testing email sequence. So all of these are 0. But as your sequence is used, these numbers will start populating, and you can begin tracking your sequence pretty closely and pretty easily within the reports tab here. And lastly, how do we add an email subscriber to a sequence? Well, that's where ConvertKit rules come into play. So at the top of the screen, we're going to click automations because automations and rules are closely linked, and ConvertKit links them via the automations link here at the top. And on this page, we're going to click on the rules link here on the top right. And as you can see, I have a bunch of rules already created for all different types of things. But I'm going to select Add Rule here on the right. And then on this page, the action is going to be subscribe to a sequence. And then we would select the testing sequence that we just created. Of course, you would select the sequence that you are creating. So on the right, the action is test sequence for me. We're adding the user to the sequence we just created. And on the left is the trigger. So what does the user have to do in order for ConvertKit to add them to the sequence? Now, usually it's going to be, for example, subscribe to a form. So if you create a form, an opt-in form to put on your home page or on some page on your blog that asks the user for their email so they can get this email course. That will be what you would select here, or anything else that you happen to be doing from within your account. But like I said, subscribing to a form will probably be the most common thing. But if you want them to go from sequence to sequence, you could select this here, completes a sequence. So if they completed another sequence and you want to add them to a follow-on sequence, that would be what this would do. But based on your scenario, you will choose the appropriate trigger, and then the action is going to be adding that user to that sequence, and then they will immediately begin receiving emails based on your email interval timing that we set before. So lastly, why would you want to create an email sequence in ConvertKit? Well, there's a few different reasons. For example, I've created email courses, and that is incredibly easy using ConvertKit because it sends one email after the other, and then they get it. They get one email a day for 4 days or 5 days or 6 days or however you set it up. It's all automated. You set it up once and you just forget. So email courses are very popular. You'll tend to have really good open rates with your welcome sequences. So right after a user subscribes to your website, you might want to set up 3 or 4 emails to be sent to them to introduce them to you and your story and what you're offering, and if you have any products. All those things go into your welcome sequence because that's when they're most interested in you right after they first sign up to your website. So welcome sequences are incredibly popular, and a lot of people use those. A lot of other email marketing softwares call this term autoresponders. I personally like email sequences better because that's a better description of actually what this feature does. And then, of course, if you're plugging products or services over time, that would be another use for email sequences. And that is it for this ConvertKit tutorial on how to set up and use email sequences. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to reach out to me. Thanks very much and have a great day.